Did you think that once you were successful and making good money that you'd feel happy? I did too. I went to med school on a scholarship. I got to Harvard, trained in psychiatry and neuroscience, and by all accounts, I was doing well. I was making good money, traveling the world, and yet I wasn't really happy. I was sort of numb, burned out, and my relationships were a hot mess. So in an effort to help you build a truly fulfilling life without going through all the pain that I did, here are 10 lessons that I wish I'd learned sooner. In 2012, I was a fellow doing child medicine psychiatry at Harvard, and I was very proud of having gotten there, but I didn't feel alive or connected with people around me. It felt like I was in a bubble. And so I would be very productive, put on a fake mask, be happy and productive during the day, and then I would collapse in the evenings and weekends. What I didn't realize back then is that a lot of high achievers like you and me, we have had hidden childhood trauma, usually emotional neglect coupled with very high, harsh expectations from our caregivers. And we learned early on that the best way to get attention and connection was to suppress our own feelings and to just be productive and achieve. And it kind of works for a while, but it's like holding a beach ball under the water. It actually takes a lot of energy and effort to do that. And after a while, all that pent-up tension starts leaking into your life. For me, it was the vegging out, the anger, and the anxiety. And initially, I thought that those things were the problems, but actually, they were just the symptoms. But the real problem was the masking and the emotion numbing that I was doing. So that's lesson number 1. Drop the mask. It is suffocating you. So when you're a kid and people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or where do you want to travel in the world? I would always say Hawaii. So fast forward 2 decades, in 2021, we actually were in Hawaii. You'd think I'd be in heaven, right? Like I've been waiting for this my whole life. You'd be wrong. I realized later that it took me 10 days for my nervous system, which is like tightly wound up like a coil, for it to relax and downshift enough for me to actually notice the beauty around me. That's when I realized that nervous system regulation is a foundational step. So that's lesson number 2. Your body keeps the score. Your nervous system state influences what you think, what you feel, how you react, even in paradise. So once I realized the importance of nervous system regulation, I dove in with both feet, and I spent the next 2 years devouring information. I love learning. It was a lot of fun. I was able to drop cool facts at cocktail parties that won me a lot of admiration, so that's so good. But my real life did not change at all. I was still disconnected from my body, and my emotions still felt overwhelming, and my relationships were still sort of push-pull. So that's lesson number 3. Stop intellectualizing. Information is not transformation. So then I thought, I need therapy. I mean, everyone says therapy is the way to go, and I'm a psychiatrist. I tell other people to do the same, so maybe I should do that too. So I found myself a wonderful therapist. She was an older psychiatrist herself, and she was very warm and present and attuned and caring. And I was able to share my life experiences. I felt understood, I felt validated, I felt seen. And yet, things didn't change a whole lot in my personal life. And this led me to my next realization, which is that what I was doing in talk therapy is venting. And even though it feels good in the moment, venting is not the same as actually processing your emotions. So that is lesson number 4. Talk therapy alone, even with a good therapist, can keep you stuck in loops. So there's a famous David Whyte poem called Denial that I really love, and I want to read you a couple of lines from that poem right now. So he says, "To live in denial is to be in very good company. Denial is the crossroads between perception and readiness. And to deny denial is to invite powers into our life that we are not yet ready to receive." So as David poignantly shows us in the poem, our self-protective strategies, our numbing strategies, whatever yours is, maybe it's scrolling on social media, maybe it's anxiously ruminating on something, or fantasizing, or overworking, or worrying constantly and checking your finances, or maybe it's porn, or having that third slice of cake. Whatever your strategy is, What David is telling us in this poem is that it's there for a reason. It's trying to protect you from feeling certain emotions that you're not yet ready to face. So our job is to get curious about what is it trying to protect me from. So that's lesson number 5. Your behaviors are not the real problems. Your fear of certain emotions that you'd have to feel if you didn't do those behaviors, that fear is the real problem. So we live near a park, and in the summer and springtime when I go for a walk sometimes, I will see a squirrel, many of them. And a couple of times I've seen a squirrel and a neighborhood dog meet. And the squirrel, when it's that close up, it's terrified for its life, right? So it kind of freezes. That's why animals don't get PTSD, even though they live in constant life or death situation. Now, we're also animals. So once we find the underlying emotion that we're scared to feel, maybe it's anger or shame or fear or grief or disgust or whatever it is, our job is to accept it fully and then to move it and express it through our nervous system. So later in the video, I'm going to share with you a very powerful 60-second process for accepting emotions fully. But once you do that, then you can express it in many ways. You can shake or dance or cry or pound on a pillow and howl or journal or tear up things. There's so many ways, breath work. There's so many ways, but it has to be an embodied experience. And if you can have someone in your life who's a safe presence, who can be there next to you and be a loving witness without trying to fix it for you, then that's even better. So that's lesson number 6. Processing emotions means accepting it fully and then releasing and expressing it. So let's say you did all this, right? You found a pattern that you're stuck in. You paused when that pattern came up next time and asked yourself, what would I have to feel if I didn't do that behavior? Great. Now what? How do we bring this to our relationships? I want you to imagine 2 people at a party, person A and person B. Person A has not done any of this work, and they're having a conversation with person B, but they're in their head, right? They're like, does this person like me? Am I saying the clever thing? Do I sound interesting? They can hear some words from person B, but they're not actually receiving it. They're just waiting for a chance to butt in and say something clever. So there's some sort of invisible barrier between the both of them, and real connection is not possible. Now imagine another scenario, same person A and person B, but this time person A has done all this work and they're feeling lighter and more present. They can be present with their breath. In other words, they're grounded in their bodies. Because of that, they're able to have more openness and compassion for the other person's experience. Now, real connection is possible. So that is lesson number 7. Once you do the work, you are actually available for connection, and all your relationships will begin to flourish. Sometimes my clients ask, what if the other person is like being rude or condescending or making passive-aggressive comments? Am I supposed to be just open and accepting of all of that? Should I not be angry? If you are in a genuinely volatile or violent or even threatening or abusive situation anyway, the most important thing is to safely leave that situation. But more than 90% of the time in our daily lives, our safety is not actually in threat. It is more stuff like my spouse made a snippy comment, or somebody cut me off in traffic, or my colleague is taking credit for my ideas in my team meeting, or something like that. So that's okay. Anger is not bad. Just like any other emotion, it is just energy in motion. Maybe you'll learn that your spouse's snippy comment reminds you of your dad's biting criticism as a child. And even though his comments were somewhat annoying, most of your rage is coming from your past. You'll notice that someone makes a snippy comment and it barely bothers you. You just calmly say, ouch, can you say that gently, please? And you just move on. Now, on the other hand, you might talk to your anger. It might tell you this has got nothing to do with the past. There's actually a big boundary violation happening in the present. And that's also useful because now you can thoughtfully and wisely pick the right boundary and enforce it and stand by it. So lesson number 8, anger itself is not damaging, but impulsively lashing out in anger can be quite damaging. So boundaries was something that I really struggled with for a long time. I grew up in Southeast Asia, India, and we didn't do boundaries at all. In fact, boundaries was synonymous with selfishness, and I didn't want to be selfish, so I didn't do boundaries either. And then I came to the US and I learned that boundaries is self-protection, and I do want to protect myself. Things finally clicked when I realized that boundaries are not about my actions, they're about my values. Let me explain. Imagine a river. The thing that makes it a river, that gives it the shape of the river, is the river banks. If it didn't have those river banks, it would just be a puddle of water. Like that, my boundaries, the thing that makes me me, are my values. So when something threatens my core values, then I need to take action to uphold them. Because if I don't, then whatever makes me me disappears and I just become a puddle of water. So that's lesson number 9. Boundaries are how you uphold your values. The best ones are robust but flexible. So here's an experiment for you to try today. The rest of the day today, when an uncomfortable emotion comes up, I invite you to not shame yourself, but not just give into it and do your numbing routine. Just take 60 seconds and find that emotion in your body. Put your hand over that part of your body and say aloud to yourself, I feel whatever sensation you're feeling. I commit to feeling this sensation on and off for the rest of my life. And then take a deep breath and relax your whole body. So just try that today and let me know in the comments what you discovered. This is the acceptance tool that I was telling you about earlier. Just dropping any resistance to emotion and fully accepting it and relaxing into it itself will change your experience of it. So try it out and let me know what you discovered. And by the way, if you're confused about whether your childhood was traumatic or not, I made a video for you called The Top 5 Signs That You Had a Traumatic Childhood and Don't Realize It. So go check that out and I'll see you there.